I'm Rora Oh. I'm a journalist from the 조선일보. And I'm here today to host a very special fireside chat with Mr. Changpeng Zhao, also known as CZ, a man who's an entrepreneur, a billionaire, a founder, and the CEO of the Binance, which is the largest cryptocurrency exchange platform of the world. So, hello, CZ. Welcome to the ALC.
Hello, thanks for having me here.
Hi, nice to meet you. So obviously this year, the 2020 has been very rough. The whole COVID-19 situation was an unexpected event, and which is now changing our whole life. And the way we work has changed a lot. And at the cryptocurrency market side, it also had its own ups and downs. So I believe CZ here would have many interesting stories to tell us today, and we are looking forward to it. So before we start, there's going to be a Q&A. So the audiences behind the monitors, please get ready to your questions and send them to the ALC office with email so I can ask the question for you to CZ at the end of the session. Okay. So CZ, let's get it started. Let's just go back to the very beginning. You've started Binance as 2017, and only after 3 years, it has grown into the world's largest cryptocurrency company, right? So I'm just wondering, how did all this happen?
I think there's a lot of luck, and there's a lot of fundamentals as well. So Binance, we got pretty lucky in 2017. There was a what we call a bull market in 2017 for cryptocurrencies,
Right.
and at the time, actually, most of the exchange products are not that great. So there's a lot of fundamentals. We offered a faster product, a faster matching engine, faster order latencies. At the time, most of the exchanges are focused on fiat to crypto, fiat to Bitcoin. So they are usually servicing one country, and they're usually only available in one language. So we support 22 languages, and we try to service everyone around the world. We have more coin listings than most people, and we have generally higher quality coin listings. In 2017, most of the exchanges don't provide a mobile app. We're one of the first ones to provide a mobile app. And also customer support is really poor back then. Usually if you submit a ticket, you can wait for a month for like a financial trading system. So we said 24 hours is the longest our users have to wait. And so that helped a lot of people out. So there's some really basic fundamentals like product language support, product service. We always put our users first. So we're the first crypto exchange to distribute airdrops, gas distributions. These are all benefits that coin holders will get if they hold their own coins. But before us, no one else was doing this. So we're the first ones to do that. So we always had the user's best interest in mind. And then and we're pretty engaging with the users. We're on social media all the time, etc. So, but all of that are just little pieces that add up. I don't think I think we, as a business, everyone have to do those basic things well. And then, we got lucky with the market timing. So, but there's like 200 new exchanges each day for the last 3 years, and so still many of them don't get the fundamentals right. So we just want to. So we got lucky, but we also worked really hard to provide a good product and service.
Okay, so can you tell us specifically how many countries can use Binance service now?
Right now, about 180 different countries, and we have users actually from 180 different countries.
Okay, so what you and your team have done is really beyond impressive. So I heard that Binance, this company is really like the blockchain. It's really decentralized and it's distributed, right? So how do you manage all these employees from all over the world in different time zones?
Sure. I think Binance is definitely more decentralized than almost any traditional company. We're not as decentralized as some of the pure like Bitcoin decentralized projects, but we do have team members from all over the world in 50 plus countries now and across different time zones. There are some advantages and there's a lot of challenges. So we actually don't manage that much. If you try to manage people remotely, it doesn't really work. So we just try to hire passionate people and have them work the way they want. So we have no working hours, but that kind of means you got to work 24/7. Our business runs 24/7. It doesn't stop. So if something happens, you just got to get online. But at the same time, people do have some freedom during the day. If they want to take care of some personal errand, they're free to. We don't really have working hours, so but we do expect people to take some personal time. So, and I think we are very results driven. So because we can't micromanage people, we can't really measure time for people to work. We don't have a clock saying you've got to work 8 hours or 10 hours or 16 hours a day. But we do look at results. So if you deliver strong results, you will do well in the organization. And if you don't deliver results, then you're probably going to be pushed out. So, and given that is already a high performance culture, so I think this actually works quite well. We have people joining calls at 2 a.m. Their local time. The people joining at 9 p.m., 8 a.m., 7 a.m. So people just work all around the clock. So it's actually worked out pretty well for us.
Okay, so that's pretty harsh, But as you said, like they have to work like 24/7. Then how do you like manage the salaries? Like you don't have the time to manage. You don't have the time to know how much work they done. How do you manage the salaries?
So I think in this day and age, we're doing intellectual work. So we're not factory workers. We're not. I'm not against factory workers, but we're not time-based work. So you can sit in front of your computer for 8 hours in your office and not do very much, and get paid 8 hours. But I think that era has passed. So we're really results driven. So look, we pay you for your intellect, and we pay you to deliver results. And there's really not a lot of office hours or working hour concept involved. I think that concept is a really old, not really old, but fairly old concept now. I think that's going to be pushed out in the future. For at least more and more of the work will become intellectual work, whereas if a guy put their mind to it, 1 hour of work can really outshine 8 hours of sitting there twiddling your thumbs in the office. So so it's really just a it's really just a sort of understanding or agreement on which on how much you deliver. And there's also long-term and short-term contractual understandings. We're out of the sort of I work for you for an hour, you pay me for an hour type of transactional work environment. I think, look, sometimes, look, when you join, we say, okay, this is your yearly package. This is how much you get. And you can slack off for half a year, and you may get fired. Or you can work really hard. You deliver more value than what we're paying you right now. But come a year later, when we do a review, your package can increase quite a lot. So there's long-term adjustments to compensate for results, for strong results. So I think basically people should not be. We're not in a transactional. Hey, I work 1 extra hour today. You gotta pay me, I don't know, however many bucks. So we don't have that kind of working relationships anywhere within Binance. It's all long-term driven. So long-term, as long as people feel that they're compensated fairly, it has never been an issue.
So I think that's kind of key to your success. And as I mentioned in the beginning, remote work has become a trend since the COVID-19. And it seems like Binance is kind of pioneer in this area. So what do you think are the strengths of working at home?
So there's a lot of benefits and there's some drawbacks actually. So working at home give people a lot of freedom. So if you, for example, if you want to run some personal errand, you want to some friends over during the day, take care of some relatives, you got to feed a baby. So you have a lot more time to spend with your family. It's actually easier to achieve a work-life balance. But the trade-off is for the flexible hours is that, yes, I mentioned earlier, you may be joining calls outside of normal working hours. So there's a lot of personal benefits there, but it's just a different type of work arrangement. For the organization, there's a lot of differences as well. This allows us to hire best talent globally. So we can hire any people anywhere in the world. We're no longer confined to one country or one geographic location. And so we're able to hire a very diverse team, and it's the best people from all around the world. And that's a really strong advantage. And people working in our teams can work with people in different time zones, different places in the world. Their view is really broadened. And also, people generally waste less time on commute. So you wake up, you can work, and you don't have to spend an hour or 2 hours round trip on the way to the office. But communication, but if you're not careful, a lot of time can be wasted scheduling meetings, because when you're working remotely, you can't just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, let's talk." Especially if it's a group meeting. So we highly encourage everybody have 1 or 2 daily meetings. So usually either one with their boss and another one with their working team. This way you don't have to schedule, you don't have to waste time scheduling meetings. So there's a lot of little nuances like this which we need to optimize and learn. And I think as more companies are doing remote work during the COVID-19, a lot of these tricks they need to balance. You also have to have a very high degree of tolerance. Sometimes when we're doing conference calls, you will hear babies screaming in the background, etc. That's just part of life. So we don't mind that. We just get on with it, and we understand that's part of working from home. Not everybody have a separate room, a separate office at home. So there's sometimes a little bit more distractions. So that's a lot of little things. But overall, I would say in the future, as more and more people and organizations figure out how to work remotely, they will find that remote working is actually the preferred way. So that's the experience we learned, and it's actually super productive. Actually, lastly, another really sort of a secondary benefit is when you have remote teams, the team structure dictates system structure. When you have remote teams, your systems are actually designed to be more modular, because they tend to communicate in small teams, and you can't have a big monolithic system architecture, which is actually harder to maintain long term. So there's some secondary benefits in terms of system design, more scalable architecture, etc. So that most people don't think about, but we are actually enjoying the benefits of that.
Thank you. So you often mention in the interviews that Binance has now grown so big that even you cannot catch up with everything happening out there. So, but the Binance itself is really working very fine. So I guess you have a great delegation skills to maintain it that way. Can you please share us some tips and experiences on this?
Sure. I think, to be honest, I have a lot to improve on this area as well. In fact, one of the feedback I got recently was I got a delegate more. So I think we can always do better in terms of delegation. Delegating is really, really tricky. So there's one book which I learned a lot from called Team of Teams. It's written by a U.S. military general, and in there's a core concept called eyes on, hands off. So when I first delegate, so you let the other guy make the decisions and let them run with it. You don't have to interfere, but you can watch. So you can keep your eyes on, and but you try not to interfere unless absolutely necessary. And then after so eyes on, hands off has been the sort of approach that I've been trying to preach within. And so far, it seems to have worked well. But as the organization gets larger and more distributed, there's a lot of information that doesn't even flow to me. So because there's so many things going on, and I only have 24 hours a day. So and hiring strong teams that can actually run independent business units is really, really key. So far, I think we are doing all right. There's a lot of room for improvements for us still, but I think so far we're doing okay. So yeah, but we're always learning in this area as well.
Share some experiences of eyes on, hands off.
So for example, right, the Binance Smart Chain is a project that is a community-driven project, but they wanted my input, like say 11 months ago at the beginning of the year. And they said, okay, people want smart contract capabilities on the Binance Chain. And we think that adding that onto the Binance Chain is not good. And let's do a separate parallel independent blockchain that will support smart contracts. I said, well, that sounds good. So that's kind of that's all I said. And then about 8 months later, they said, we're about to ship. It's almost ready. During the process, every month or so, I sort of take a look at it. I see how things are progressing. Most of the time, I actually don't really understand because when things are in development, you can't really see what's going on. So just sort of chatting with people just to understand, just casual chats. So just sort of knowing roughly what's happening, but not in a lot of detail. And then when they're about to go live, we had organized more communities to do tests. So I watched it. I didn't say anything. So through the entire, and then they released it to the public. So through that whole process, all I said is basically sounds good. And then that entire project went live, and it's now doing, even though it's only live for 2 months, it's actually doing about 20 to 30% of the transaction volumes compared to Ethereum. So it's a really strong project. The team did really well. The community did really well, and I'm just sort of I'm the cheerleader on the side. So I tweet for them. So that's an example of eyes on, hands off. I didn't interfere at all. Yeah.
So, yeah, great. So, in a conclusion, could please share with us what have you learned from the past years? Like there's a COVID-19 situation, right? And if there's any, have you got any new ideas to implement within your daily workflow?
Sure. I think I learned a lot. In the last year, I actually got myself a coach. So I have a fairly known coach now. He's actually been coaching a lot of very famous companies. And so I actually learned a lot from him. He gave me some really interesting advices. For example, he told me that I need to spend 15% of my time on dealing with people issues, talking to people, dealing with HR, looking at how to promote people, how to coach people. So I actually started a coaching session myself within the Binance team. So I'm coaching about 18 people right now. Those are people that does not report to me directly. And so and try to identify the high potential leaders. So 15% of my time is one full day a week. So and I'm doing that, and actually I see a lot of good results. Previously, I've been focusing a lot more of my time on product and service. So just sort of the core work, what kind of product features we need, how do we tune up, position our core products. But as the team got bigger, actually, I find that I don't need to do that. It's better for them to do that themselves. They make very good decisions. So now I spend a lot more time working with people, just sort of dealing with people, dealing with people issues, see who to promote, etc. So that's something I think I learned in the last year or so, and I think I'm going to continue to increase my time allocation on that. It's been super helpful.
So I mentioned before the Binance is now the biggest cryptocurrency exchange platform in the world. So can you please share some details like numbers, like size of the users and size of the transactions?
So I think right now we are near all-time high in terms of transaction volume. I think a couple of days ago, Binance Futures did $20 billion worth US dollars worth of trading within 1 day. So that's all-time high. And we didn't say anything about it. We just didn't want to sort of brag too much about it. The spot exchange is also hitting all-time highs. And our active users are also always near all-time high. So given the recent increase in Bitcoin price, especially, and so our team size has also increased. I think we are just a little bit. I think we're 1,400 something, and if you include all the offers accepted, we will be over 1,500 people working all around the world. So this is pretty challenging for me as well. This is the first time I led an organization this size, so that I'm learning a lot of things myself as well. I'm reading a lot of books, getting coaches, etc. So we have grown quite healthily. We have always stayed cash flow positive. So. We didn't have to rely on outside funding to grow. So far, it's growing really, really quickly. But so far, I think it's still relatively healthy.
Okay, so let's start talking about the real business of Binance now. And
Sure.
Obviously, a lot has happened in the cryptocurrency market, and we want to get updated with what's happening out there. And as you mentioned before, that your cash flow is totally fine, but it seems like every successful startups are throwing themselves to get the opportunity to IPO. But as far as I heard, Binance has no intention to go public. Can you tell us why?
Yes, so I think this has to do with our strategic positioning. So I think Binance is different to traditional organizations or traditional companies in many ways. We don't really use the word company that much internally. So we use the word organization or team. So and from the very beginning, Binance is structured very differently. So because we want to go the other route, we want to go decentralized. So we actually may want Binance just to be a community of developers in the future. And if that's the case, it's kind of hard to IPO that kind of a structure. So the two structures are opposite of each other. We want to go more of the decentralized route. At least the current direction is go more decentralized. So and a lot of those things are not really fit. The IPO just doesn't work for an organization in that scenario. And also, IPO is really mainly a tool for people to raise money, for companies to raise money and establish an industry leader position. And I think we are kind of already in an industry leader position. And IPOing, we are cash flow positive enough that it does not limit our ability to grow. Our ability to grow is actually limited by our management ability. So how to organize a team of 1,500 people all around the world. So how to do it is actually the bottleneck, not so much the funding. And and also we actually, when Binance first started, we actually did an ICO. We issued a Binance coin, BNB, and that coin is already liquid. It's already circulating. It has a relatively high market capitalization now. And we, having done that, we don't really want to issue Binance shares to dilute the value of BNB. So I think we actually, if everything goes well, hopefully we can move Binance into a decentralized organization in the future. And when going this way, it's very different from the traditional companies where you do rounds of VC funding and then IPO. So it's just a very different path. So far we're on this path and not the old path. We're not pursuing an IPO, and I don't think that's going to limit our growth or have any negative impacts on us. So far we don't gain anything from doing IPO. Things are working out already. So we'll just continue on this decentralized path.
Okay, so very interesting. So you've mentioned BNB. So I heard that 90% of Binance employees are receiving their salaries in BNB, right? And I'm just wondering, how did you develop this system, and what are the benefits and risks to get the salaries in cryptocurrency?
Sure. I think I just want to make a little correction there. 90% of our employees do receive part of their compensation in BNB, usually the bonus part especially. So people do still need to pay fiat. So a lot of the expenses are in fiat. So receiving crypto has the risk where the crypto price fluctuates and BNB the price do fluctuate. So if you're not able to withstand that kind of fluctuations in the coin price, if you have to pay next month's rent and that coin is in some cryptocurrency, then it's kind of dangerous. But if you have some fiat currencies to take care of basic living expenses, then the risk is relatively small. There's a lot of benefits. Paying crypto is much easier if we have to send people money in 50 different countries. Using bank accounts is actually really, really tricky. The current banking system are not set up to make it easy to transfer money internationally. So international remittances are much easier with a cryptocurrency. And also for the volatility part, most of the BNB holders actually have benefited. BNB from the 3 years ago, from the initial ICO price, have already increased 30,000%, so 300 times. 300x in the last 3 years, and in this year so far alone is close to doubled. So it's increased more than close to about 100% this year. So most people actually want to hold that. Most people want to receive it, and so once they receive it, they typically hold it. Our team members are usually financially not in a financial crunch. They're usually relatively well compensated, at least not to the point where they have to depend on food and rent payments immediately. So they usually have this financial ability to have a buffer. So that kind of takes care of that problem. And also with the recent opening of a Binance card, a lot of our employees are just spending crypto directly. Just swipe the Binance card and you pay in BNB, and the merchants receive fiat. So it's actually a pretty easy process now. So yeah, it has a lot of benefits for us and also for our team members. It has some volatility is probably the biggest drawback. But look, if you're financially well off enough so that you have some cushion, then that problem goes away. And this helps us to hire people globally again. So everything sort of worked together to achieve this sort of to achieve our current structure. So everything's kind of optimized for this global structure.
Oh, okay. So you are famous for being rich without the real assets. I mean, like cash or gold or real estate, right? So is it true that most of your assets are cryptocurrency?
Yes. So especially now. So I mean, so I do. So the only sort of physical or real assets I hold are sort of generally electronic gadgets like cameras, cell phones, and stuff like that. So they're like a couple $100s a pop. Yeah. So not that expensive, but most of the other real assets are hard to hold. They just have a lot of problems. Like say you buy a house, it's not very liquid. You can't sell it in a hurry. It will take you months to sell it. I did sell a house in 2014 to buy Bitcoin, and it took me 6 months to sell the house. So it's not very liquid, and you can't move it with you. Even gold, you can't carry it with you. And I view that most of the traditional assets will devalue over time against cryptocurrencies. So, and I'm already heavily in this industry. So for me, I like to keep everything simple. I don't want, and also the other real assets you have to take care of. So there's a lot of maintenance cost, not just in money, but just sort of in brain cycles. You have to think about, there's I don't know, the pipe is not working in the house, so you got to fix it. And if you have a boat, there's a lot of maintenance fees with it. If you have a car, the tire pops, you got to fix it, got to buy insurance. So for me, I like to not worry about any of those things. Just keep my life really, really simple and focus on what I do best and what was most meaningful for me. So for me, I hold a little bit of Bitcoin, and then I hold a lot of BNB. So those are fine. And for me, I can take. For me, even though my nearly 99.9% of my wealth is in crypto right now, I can take the volatility. Even if it drops by 90%, I'm still okay. So I'm not worried about that. I just want to focus on building, improving the organization of Binance and improving the Binance ecosystem.
Okay, so just let me double check. You don't own a house, right?
No, I don't own a house.
You don't own a house. You're a billionaire and you don't own a house.
No, I don't own a house.
That's surprising.
I sold my house in 2014. I told myself I'm not going to buy a house again. It's just too much trouble to sell.
So you're renting a house right now?
Yeah, so I stay in like service apartments, hotels, or just renting. If I rent, it's easy to commit for a year rent. Even if I only stay for 3 months, that's okay. I don't lose that much. So that's okay. So I just, so I'm very mobile. Yeah.
Okay, so it's surprising. And so I can see that you truly believe that crypto will become real money in one day, right? As you may know, absolutely, great. As you may know, recently PayPal has entered the crypto market, and the price of Bitcoin is going up. It's like a crazy bull market right now. What is your prospect of the cryptocurrency market in the future?
Okay, sure. So I'm obviously very bullish. I think we can look at the sort of the longer time horizon. If we look, say, 10 years, 50 years, if you look at that kind of horizon, then if you look at 50 years, I believe everything will be crypto. Or maybe even something better than crypto. But it's not going to be the current fiat paper money and unlimited supply, etc. So, given that sort of, given that sort of super long-term vision, then we want to help build that future, and whoever's helping contributing value to build this future, will also be rewarded. And even without the rewards, I think this is, as long as we can take care of ourselves, which we totally can now. Just doing this is really self-rewarding, knowing that we're contributing to the advancement of our civilization. So for me, this is a very meaningful thing to do. So for me, I fully believe in the industry. There will be short-term swings up and downs, but if we look at the longer term, I think we're definitely in the best industry, one of the highest growth potential in this industry, and also one of the highest positive impact to human civilization industries. So we can actually give our civilization a better form of money. So we can increase the freedom of money for billions of people around the world, and we want to contribute a little towards that. So I think, I'm very much bullish on this industry. So I don't get bothered or scared or worried about corrections, Bitcoin dropping, rising. Also, even when Bitcoin rising, I don't get too excited. I'm like that's kind of expected to happen. So nothing to be super excited about. We just gotta keep focus on building products that people use, and hopefully that will help people to have access to a better form of money.
So to service the better money for the world. And you recently shared your willingness to make Binance a bridge between the CeFi and DeFi, which is the short term for centralized finance and decentralized finance. To do that, what kind of shift you may predict within the corporate structure of Binance?
So basically, I think eventually everything will be crypto. But right now, the pure crypto world is only 0.1% of the total wealth in the world. So right now, 99.9% of the wealth is still in fiat. And I also believe so we need bridges to bring those money into crypto, or let people sort of cross that bridge or back if they want to. So that's one aspect of it. I think there's a lot of value to be added there. I think a lot of the pure crypto guys, they despise anything to do with fiat currency. But look, if we want to move everyone into crypto, we need those bridges, and that's something we want to provide. And also, I believe there's a lot of opportunity in the next little while, in the next 5 to 10 years, in the cross sections of two different worlds. So most of the action happens near the edges, or especially the overlaps. So that's kind of where the Binance centralized exchange will be. Going in the future, though, we want the sort of Binance ecosystem to be focused on the pure decentralized land or decentralized world, where there's a Binance Smart Chain, there's other blockchains, there's Bitcoin. So we have both going on. But Binance.com, the centralized entity, is going to be more or less like a bridge going forward. So we'll see how it goes. And I view the bridge as a transient product, like say 5 to 10 years max. I believe in 10 years, the decentralized exchanges probably will overtake centralized exchanges, and we're okay with that. We will build multiple. We'll have multiple attempts on decentralized exchanges, and hopefully one of them will stick. We'll see. Yeah.
Okay, so you previously mentioned the Binance Visa card, and I think it is the example for the bridge thing you do.
Yeah.
Can you be more specific by this Visa card?
Sure. So I think the Binance card, the Binance Visa card, is a really strong innovation. Well, not a strong innovation, but it's a really good product, that a bridge product. That's actually the reverse bridge to let people go from crypto to fiat. So one of the most obvious use cases of Bitcoin or crypto was payments, right? So it should be used as a payment system. But so far, that has not taken off, I believe, for a number of reasons. I think one of the main reasons is that the existing payments rails in the traditional world are working relatively fine, especially if you only if you only live in one country or spend most of the time in one country. It kind of works. And if we go to a merchant and say, look, you can install this new device that can accept crypto, and you're going to increase your customer base by 0.1%. So the merchant's going to laugh you out of the shop, because that's 1 in 1,000 people. And if the merchants don't accept crypto, then the crypto doesn't have a use case for payments. So we've seen that pure crypto payments have not taken off. One of the ways we've discussed to sort of get around this problem is to increase one side first and let the merchants still continue to accept fiat. So. But let a crypto latch onto existing fiat payment rails. So now we have a credit card that if any merchants accepts Visa, which most merchants do, And then for the user, I can swipe my Visa card at a store, and the shop owner gets fiat, and I spend crypto, and the exchange and the service in between does the conversions. So this way, it's actually you will allow more people to hold crypto only. So now I don't need to worry about converting my BNB into fiat and then transferring to a bank account and then to pay my credit card bill. I can just swipe it. I'm done. And for the merchants, they just get fiat, so they have no risk. And then over time, hopefully, this will allow more and more users to grow. And when we have 10% users accepting using or wanting to use cryptos directly, the shops may want to accept it. When we have 80% of users want to spend crypto, then the shop owners will have no choice but to accept it. So we need to find a way to increase one side of the demand, and then while keeping the other side the same. Once this demand goes high enough, then the other side can work. So I think the Binance Card serves two really interesting purposes. One is that this increase adoption one side first, and then try to crack the other. The other, for users personally, now we can stay in 100% in crypto or close to 100% in crypto. And it's actually having the off ramp actually helps people to stay in crypto more. So that's a little bit counterintuitive, but for me, I don't have to worry about selling crypto, selling a bunch of it. I just use whenever so it converts for me automatically when I spend, and I don't have to hold any extra. So that's a really good for me. It's a really great product to have.
Great. So actually today, hundreds of university students who are interested in this area are joining us online. And I'm going to ask a question that they may be interested in. So what is the most important quality you see in the new hires?
I look for passion. So for me, whenever I talk to somebody, I see how passionate they are about. So typically, when a interviewee candidate gets to me, they have usually passed sort of the technical interviews already, and so they're probably good at whatever they do. So I look for if this person is passionate about this industry, passionate about Binance, passionate about joining a decentralized team, and are okay with some of our quirks because we're different from a traditional organization. So I look for those type of fits, and I also look for early adopters. So we are the early adopters in this industry. So if we hire a guy who's risk averse, who's a late adopter, they're probably not going to understand our product that well. They're probably not going to be. We're in a very new sector of the sort of fintech industry. So those are the two things I look for. So there's a few other things I look for as well, but usually with a quick chat, I can sort of figure out whether the candidates have at least those two qualities.
So actually, this is my second time to have a conversation with you. So I'm really honored to have that. But and your enthusiasm, yes, as you mentioned, the passion just never fails to surprise me every time. So do you have any skills to encourage yourself or your team to stay motivated?
Sure. So I think I typically encourage younger people, sort of people who are fresh into their careers, to develop one or two deeper skills. So be it if you're a developer, then pick a couple languages and become a really, really, really good developer. And if you're a marketing guy, be really good at marketing. So I typically recommend people becoming strong in one skill set earlier in their career. And then sort of after a few years, after 5 years, you can be considered, or even 5 to 10 years, you can be considered an expert in that field. I actually encourage people to go a little bit broader. This doesn't work for everybody. Some people like to keep going deep, and some people like to go. For people who wants to go into management leadership roles, or even do your own startup, if you're a CEO, then you have to touch a little bit of everything. You have to understand a little bit of everything. So, if for people who are thinking about doing entrepreneurship and also becoming leaders, or then you have to know a bit more breadth. So that's typically what I recommend to people. So for me, I come from a technology background, so I used to be a developer, but now I don't write code anymore, so I'm probably a terrible developer now. But I do know a bit more of everything else. Again, not an expert in any area, but also later on in the early stages in the career, it's more about the skill sets and also the sort of hard work and the drive. Later on, it's actually about more people skills, soft skills. How do you get a group of people to follow you? how do you get a group of like very experienced, high performing people to respect you, to want to follow you along, to want to join your company, to want to join your team, and to want to do something meaningful. So that aspect takes time to build. So so there's different aspects in different career stages. So for me, I'm still working on I'm still more working on the sort of people side, leadership side, and so I read books. I try to get mentors, and I also talk to people on our team. So that's something I'm continually trying to learn and improve. So I think different stages, different skills. Yeah.
Just different skills. Great. So actually, time flies. We're already getting to the end of the session. So this is my last question. What advice could you give to the young CEOs who are just at the beginning of their journey?
So I think for most CEOs, especially entrepreneurs, I would say most people tend to underestimate how difficult it is to do a successful startup or run a company. Even for me today, I still have faced a lot of challenges. So I think don't underestimate the difficulty. Whatever difficulty you're estimating, be prepared for 10x more difficulties. So have a strong heart, have perseverance, and also take care of yourself physically. Being a leader is actually a very physical demanding job. So you got to work very long hours. You got to deal with a lot of different stress. So I would say be mentally prepared and also stay in very good physical shape. And you're going to need it. So that would be my advice.
So be strong-hearted, right? And thank
Yes,
you, CC.
absolutely.
Now let's have our audiences to talk. Our
Sure.
staff has organized some questions that came into our official mailbox, and I can see them in the monitor right now. So here's the question from the audiences. The first question is, young people in the cryptocurrency market seem to be most interested in whether there could be another cryptocurrency boom. This is interesting. So what are your thoughts on this?
So it's very hard to predict the future, but the crypto market goes in cycles. So it looks like historically it looks like a 4-year cycle. It may be caused by the Bitcoin halving, or maybe even stock markets have cycles, usually 4 years. It may be affected by the president's elections in the U.S., etc. So, but it looks like generally the longer term trend is a 4-year cycle. I could be off. It could be wrong. It could be 10 years. The next cycle may not happen. But if you look at the one of the key metrics we look at is the activity in the industry. So how many more people are joining in the industry? So I think if we compare now than 4 years ago, there's a lot more activity today. So I'm fully confident that the next bull cycle will happen. Bitcoin's already inching up pretty closely to the previous all-time high. BNB have actually surpassed the previous all-time high in 2018. So we in 2018, I think we hit like $24 US dollars, and then later on 2019 we hit 40, and then but yeah, they go in cycles. So and I think as long as so far every indication is the industry is growing, so I'm pretty optimistic about it. But don't quote me on that. I'm not predicting, guaranteeing price, etc. So I got to be very careful there.
Anything. And the next question is, okay, this is a tricky one. What changes will the US election bring to the cryptocurrency world?
To be honest, I'm not an expert, but I do believe that everyone has a different view on cryptocurrencies, and the U.S. being one of the dominant economic powers in the world will definitely have a significant impact. So I don't know how the new president or whoever is president is going to decide. We'll have to wait a little bit and see. But at the same time, I think what's clear is that crypto is not going away. Bitcoin is not going to disappear. And also US is leading a lot of the innovations, especially in DeFi. If you look at the DeFi projects, 50% of them come from the United States. So US is very strong leaders on this technology innovation. So hopefully we'll see favorable regulations, whoever becomes US president, and we'll see favorable regulations being shaped up. I do think there's a lot of smart people in the US that understand that if they don't make favorable regulations, the money is just going to go elsewhere. So hopefully we can see more favorable regulations towards our industry. But I'm pretty positive about it. I think it will happen.
Okay, stay positive. And the third question, This is kind of related to the second one. The audience has said, Trump claims that the election has been rigged. Could we one day replace mail-in voting with blockchain technology, reputed to be both fair and trustworthy? Actually, as
Yes,
far as I know, Utah is using the blockchain technology to vote, right?
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. I actually tweeted about this. I think we can definitely have a blockchain-enabled voting system that's also protects privacy. So there are ways to get it done. I actually think that there's now going to be more push to get this done now, given so much mess, so much fallout is happening for this. But for every voting, the losing side is always going to complain. So we do community listing votes, and for coin listings, like anytime that the losing side will complain. So I think blockchain voting apps are really are going to get the adoption, given what we see on this sort of international events now. So yeah, I absolutely agree.
So, do you have any? This is my question. Do you have any plan to invest in the app or something that is behind as a blockchain for voting?
So I think we definitely have interest. So there's already a number of projects trying to solve this type of problems. Most of them have not gotten really strong traction so far. But given the current instance, given the current events, I think they will get more traction. So Binance, we do have investment arms that invest in especially blockchain-related projects or apps, etc. So we're more than happy to look at this type of projects. It's not to say that we will guarantee to invest in every single blockchain voting app. It still has to be a strong app delivered by strong people, have good traction, etc. So, but yeah, we're totally open to invest in projects in this space.
Good to know. And for the next question, many people are suffering losses from crypto scams. How is Binance responding to the issue of scams, and what sets Binance apart from the other exchanges? I think the question is about the scams. How do you prevent the scams?
Sure. I think there are a number. So in a decentralized world, there's actually going to be more scams than in a centralized world. So scams are actually harder to prevent. You can't stop somebody from doing some scam. They can try, and many people will try. So there are a number of things we can do. Number one is I think the most fundamental thing is we actually need to increase education. So we need to teach people how to tell something's a scam. We need to teach people the right mindset before they wire money or send coins to somebody else. They need to do the proper due diligence. They need to do the research, etc. So education is a big part of it. So for that, we have Binance Academy. We have many blog posts teaching people how to avoid scam, etc. And I think even schools should teach about this. Schools should teach teenagers or younger kids about this so that it's ingrained in their minds. And on the sort of fixing side, when scams do happen, we do try to help users try to recover the funds to the best of our ability. So recently, one of the scam projects, Swap, actually took about $500,000 of investors' funds. We were actually we have an investigating team within Binance that does the investigations on the blockchain analysis, and we were actually able to pinpoint that individual, and we actually confronted that individual and asked them to return the money or deal with other consequences. And that person actually returned all the money, and we were actually able to cover to return that to all the users who lost money. So that was a really, really good one, but we can't do that in every case. So it's not guaranteed to work. We also work with other law enforcement agencies trying to crack down on scams. So there's multiple things we can do, but it's never guaranteed. So in the decentralized world, we actually got to be more careful about scams. We'll do as much as we can, but we won't be able to fix everything.
I think this will be the last question due to the time issue.
Sure.
So the last question is, if a large amount of money has been sent to the user by mistake, do you think we should take back the wallet? Okay.
Okay. I think this question most likely is if a user by mistake sends a large number of funds to somewhere, especially if it's to Binance. So we have a policy that we always protect the users. So if anybody sends by mistake send funds to our address, we will return it. Sometimes it takes a long time because that's a non-standard operation and it involves private keys, which deals with a lot of security. But if any user send large amounts of funds to us by mistake, by honest mistake, if they're just not trying to create extra work for us, we will do our best to return the funds. Many other exchanges don't do this. I believe this is something that every exchange, every centralized entity should do, because we want to protect people's funds, and people do make honest mistakes. So to the best of our ability, we do that. We do see users complain about other centralized exchanges. Sometimes they don't do this. I really hope that they all do. I think this is a very key part of building trust in the ecosystem and continue to grow the ecosystem.
So as far as I know, you are running a foundation that can prevent this kind of accident, right? Can you just explain in shortly about this foundation?
Sure. Okay, so the foundation doesn't prevent somebody from, so anyone can send their coins to any valid address. And if they send it to an address that we don't control, then there's not much we can do. There's one category in that sense. Sometimes they send it to a smart contract address. If a user sends BNB to a smart contract address, that means that those funds are never going to be touched by anybody else. You can't, that fund is locked forever. No one can touch it. In that case, we try to compensate the user by from our funds using the burn mechanism. So every quarter we burn a certain number of BNB, and we deduct from that and give it to the user, and everybody likes that a lot. This way we can compensate people for their honest mistakes. The second category is when people send some coins either to a wrong coin address or some other address, but that we control the private key. So they send it to one of our addresses. In those cases, yes, we will try to recover the fund and then try to return the funds. So wherever we can, we do try, but we don't have a foundation that's unlimited in fixing every problem in this case, but we are able to cover a portion of the cases.
Okay, so thank you very much again, CZ, for today. And everybody, this is it for today. And please stay tuned with the next session. And it has been a wonderful time, CZ. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aurora, and thank you everyone for listening in.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.